On this week's Tune-Up Thursday, we're going to talk about the planer. Now, I know that this has 2 extra screws than a lunchbox planer, but everything is exactly the same. Usually, people don't try and adjust the screws on their planers. If you're getting a board that is coming out at an angle like this, pretty extreme example, all I would do is just keep track of where your second to last pass was, and without adjusting the height, flip it 180 degrees and run it through again. That's really the only way you're going to solve that problem without potentially making things worse. The things that you need for this is just some drying lubricant, which I've mentioned in the last 2 videos, the table saw and the miter saw tune-up videos, some paste wax, some Simple Green, which is the best cleaner for getting off wood sap or pitch, as they call it. So we're going to go ahead and get into this. I'll show you some common problems that happen, how to adjust the infeed and outfeed beds, how to clean it, and how to adjust your knives without sharpening them if you don't have an extra set around. So let's get in here and start taking this thing apart. Okay, so the first thing you want to do is clean it, and I always forget to say this early in the video, but make sure that your tool is unplugged. And when you're reaching up in here, be very careful because your planer blades are in there and they are sharp. So first, what I always do is I blow off all the dust. Planers have a tendency to get chips stuck up in here because you have big chips, so make sure you get your spray gun or your vacuum up in there and get it really clean. Next, we're going to want to clean the bed. Again, Simple Green is great at taking off pitch. And then we're going to want to clean the feed rollers. So the feed rollers are under here, and a lot of times they don't move while the planer is engaged. So if you need to rotate them, what you can do is plug your planer on, flip it on and off really quick, unplug it again, and that should rotate the feed roller enough that you can clean the rubber off. So let's get this thing cleaned up. Next, you're gonna want to lubricate your posts, and you don't wanna get this lubricant on rubber parts. So what I like to do is I'll just put a rag behind it and then just kind of wipe it around and get all these lubricated. And that's really the only parts in a planer that really need to be lubricated. The bearings that run your cutter head are packed bearings. So usually they're packed bearings and they don't need to be lubricated. So this is really the only part that does. And then we're gonna put paste wax on the bed so that we can let it dry and buff it out. Now that we have everything clean, waxed, and lubricated, it's time to get on the inside and do our interior maintenance, which involves the cutter head and the blades and cleaning out the inside of this. Now, I have upgraded this to a Helix cutter head, but I have my old one here, so I'll be showing you what to do if you have straight knives, and we'll get into it. This is what most 3-knife cutter heads look like when you get in there, and it's gonna have some screws and a cover over the blade, and you're gonna be able to take that off. One of the biggest problems with planers is that you get nicks in the blade, which leaves a groove on your board. Now, I would not try and resharpen your blades. You can if you want. I'm not gonna tell you what to do, but it's a pain in the butt, takes a long time, and blades are pretty inexpensive. You can get most replacement blades for lunchbox planers for, 30, 40 bucks, and it comes with a set of 3. DeWalt's are awesome because they're double-sided, so you get 2 good edges. And so what you want to do is remove this cover. Now, with DeWalt's, they have these screws in here, and the key that comes with it is magnetized, so you don't have to handle it because these things are really sharp, so you can take it off just like that. But if you're not going to sharpen it and you only have 1 good edge, what I would do is flip it around. And if you have any nicks, you can see these index pins here. These index pins can be moved slightly. So if you have a nick, usually that nick will be in the same place on all 3 blades. So you can move one this way and one this way, and that will leave you with a nick-free surface because you've now misaligned those dents in your blade. The other thing that I'll do is when I turn it around, I'll write bad with an arrow, because who knows how long it'll be until you get back into this, and it could be 6 months, a year. And that way I know when I go to change that this is not a good side, that's already dull. So that's really all there is to it about blade maintenance. If you're gonna try and sharpen it, best of luck to you. It's not an easy task, especially something with that far of a length. There are services that will do it for you. Again, they're very inexpensive, so it's not really something that you really want to send to get sharpened. So when you take your blade off, the next thing you want to do with your cutter head is you want to clean this surface really well. You want to make sure that that's free of sawdust and there's nothing that's going to cause your blade to be off the surface or something, which can cause chips to get stuck behind it and cause all sorts of performance issues. Again, like I said, these bearings are packed with grease, so they don't need to be lubricated. The chains inside you can lubricate, but again, those aren't really necessary because it could just cause a lot of fine sawdust to get stuck to them. If you have a segmented cutter head, this would be a good time to rotate all your blades. I don't like to rotate one of them. Maybe if they're pretty fresh and one has a chip, I'll rotate it, but over time they wear slightly, and so if you're just rotating one at a time, then you might have a slightly wavy surface. I don't know if that makes that big of a difference, but that's just sort of the way I think. So when I rotate them, what I'll do is I'll put a black mark on the side that's used, and that way I know. These are relatively fresh, so I'm not going to rotate them now, but they index, and you cannot mess these up. They have a bevel on them, and that index is in the right place, and they're all machined perfectly so that when you rotate, it's just going to go in the right place, so it's not that big a deal. You can see the chains, and you can sort of look and see if you have anything in there, but because this is sealed here, the chains don't get very much dirt on them. If you have anything like big gunked up piles, I would give that a wipe off, but I would not put too much grease on it because it can start to accumulate more dirt than you're taking off. So we're gonna get this cover back on here and align our tables. Next, we want to adjust our outfeed tables. And what I like to take the biggest straight edge I have in my shop, just happen to have this framing level, but it definitely doesn't need to be this long. As long as it's just, it's straight and it's wider than your planer, you're good to go. Now, these types of tables are adjusted several ways depending on what planer you have. Some of them will have a screw that's right here, and you would just adjust those screws on both sides to get it so that it's level with your bed. On mine, it has 4 screws. You can see them 1, 2, 3, 4, and the bed has 4 adjustment points. So when you're doing this, I suggest that you put your level on one side, adjust it, other side, adjust it, and then check it all the way across. Because if you loosen all 4 screws or try and do both at once, you're gonna end up chasing level and it's gonna be a pain in the butt. So I'm gonna go ahead and get these. In fact, as you can see, mine is way off. I don't know if that's from running 10-foot long 8-quarter boards of walnut through here or who knows what, but at one point it was level. So we're gonna go ahead and adjust that, and that will definitely help with snipe. If snipe is still a problem when you're done, there's some great videos. I'll link one below by Jay Bates. He built this thing that goes all the way across, one single board of melamine, and it works great. So if you're still having problems with snipe after you do this, then I would build something that is a singular flat board. And then the last thing you can do is check your drivetrain and make sure you don't see anything that's wrong with it. There's nothing you can really do. It's a closed system, so it's not gonna get dirt in there, but it's a good thing to check, because if that breaks while you're running a board through it, you could ruin a piece of work. But it's more just a visual inspection to make sure there's nothing that you see wrong. And that's just about all there is to it. I guess if you have a digital height gauge, you could run a board through and make sure that that's dialed in, and then just make sure nothing's blocking your dust collection, the impeller that's in the back of these planers. Other than that, guys, tool tune-up Thursday, it's easy. Even the table saw took me less than half an hour, and this is just something, if you make it, let's say, make it on Thursday. On Thursday, you tune up one tool in your shop. That's what I'm gonna be doing for the next few weeks, except next week my daughter's due, or by the time this video comes out, she may be here already, which is very exciting. But take one day a week, guys, do 30 minutes of tool tune-up, and you will be so thankful. I mean, tuning up a planer makes such a difference, just how easy it is to crank the hand wheel, how easy boards go through. They don't get black marks on the bottom from pitch on your bed, less snipe. It just makes a huge difference, and it takes so little of your time. So, guys, I love bringing you these videos, and we will see you next week on Tool Tune-Up Thursday. Thanks so much for watching. Stay safe in the shop, and have a wonderful day.